All right. Welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah, we're podcasting now. As I'm chugging this coffee. So I actually got a lot of, I don't know if did you watch the Preaching to the Choir one that I did?
No, I don't think so.
What? Come on, Matt. So I did a Preaching to the Choir episode yesterday and called it I Saw God. I technically didn't see God, but I knew he was there. Um and then I talked about the experience and some of the things that you talk about, but I didn't want to go into a lane that I'm not familiar with and I'm for sure not an expert in. I just talked about my experience. And I was surprised at how many people have also had that experience, but also how many people have had the experience in not the proper way,
Yeah.
which you've talked to me about. Sorry, I digressed. Before we get into that, let's talk about your background. You know, we can talk about the military, what you did in the military, and then coming full circle, how did you go from Green Beret to Shaman? You know,
Yeah. Okay.
let's go.
Yeah, and so what's really cool is like where we're sitting right now is really integral to the story. And I'll bring some of that up. But essentially I grew up not far from here, next county over, Summit County.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no,
In Park City?
yeah. Well, no, not in Park City, the northern
Camas,
county.
Oakley,
Yeah, further north, Colville.
Colville. You grew up in Colville?
Well, high school there. I went to Hennifer. I grew up in
Wow.
Hennifer, went to high school and school in Colville.
Awesome. Small
Yeah.
little town still.
Yeah. I mean, it was like maybe 500 or 600 when I was a kid. It's closer to 1,000 now.
Yeah.
But I knew as a young man, like I didn't have a whole lot of opportunity in front of me because we weren't, like fifth generation landowners with 10,000 acres and 1,000 head of sheep or anything like that. We were. My dad moved up there to run the bank, the local bank. I was born in Salt Lake. We moved up there when I was 2.
Mm.
So right out of high school, I wanted to join the army, but I was also at the time heavily Latter Day Saint Mormon. So I deferred for a while in order to go on my mission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
So
was your mission at?
Ireland.
Oh,
Yeah,
you got one of the cool
I
gigs.
did. Yeah, I was so fortunate. I loved Ireland. I didn't love the work. I later left the church and all that, so that's a whole story in and of itself.
Heavy Catholic there, right?
Oh yeah.
So you talking to Catholics about
Yeah.
an alternative plan was
Yeah.
probably not sitting well, I can imagine, in
Right,
Ireland.
right. And it was one of the lower like baptizing missions out there. Like it was not
Oh, they weren't
yeah.
hard pressing you.
Yeah, it was staunch Catholic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a hard mission, but I loved it and I loved Ireland. And I call it a breadcrumb. There's things in my shamanic journey that looking back, I can see how divine source was playing a role all that time and keeping me on a path. So I look at and I think of Ireland as part of that still. And
Mm.
and I even when I did my pilgrimage, I went to Ireland and spent some time there having a much different, shamanic experience.
Yeah.
But came back from my mission, and then the first person I called was the recruiter. I'm like, let's go. Like I'm ready.
So you're 19, 20?
I was 21.
21,
Yeah,
okay.
21. I originally joined the Army as a 25 Sierra, which back then was combat photographer.
Oh, that's rad.
Yeah, well,
That's rad. I actually thought about doing that at some point as
yeah,
well. It's a
yeah.
cool job.
I loved it. I had a lot of experience in it, and so I thought, well, I'll just, I'll stay with my strong suit and I'll just do that because I'd done it in high school and 1 year of college already.
Yeah.
So I knew,
Photography.
yeah. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. So I did that. Later, I got out, went to school at Weber State in Ogden.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got commissioned into the Field Artillery, into the Utah National Guard.
Yep.
I was married at the time. My wife had concerns about active duty, so I chose the Guard over active duty. And then again, like just struggling to really like find my economic, way forward. Um, I was selling real estate because my dad had also sold real estate, and I hated it. It was dirty to
Yeah.
me. And so I just woke up one day. I remember I woke up, sat on the edge of the bed, and the thought of going to work was just more than I could deal with. So I told her, I said, look, I got to go back into the Army or not, I mean, or with or without you, basically.
Yeah.
She said, okay, I get it. I'll support this. So I reached out.
Wait, I'll support this and we're over and we're done, or I'll support this and I'm with you.
No, I'm with you. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She was with it. She's like, okay, I can tell like this is not working out for us, the real estate thing. Let's go on active duty.
Yeah.
So I joined. This was not probably the preferred technique.
Yeah.
But essentially, I had a mentor in ROTC who had been part of 19th Group Special Forces also.
Yeah.
And he said, listen, the only way you're getting on active duty, because this was in the Clinton years.
Yeah.
So we're talking like 96, 97, 98.
Yeah.
He says the only way you're getting on active duty is if you're a doctor, a lawyer, a priest, or a Green Beret. Like that's the only people they're taking on because they're cutting the military.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, well, I'm not a doctor or a lawyer. So what's a Green Beret?
Wow.
I mean, I knew,
Yeah.
but I didn't really know,
Yeah. And this dude was a Green Beret.
Yeah. And so he connected me with 19th Group, which is local National Guard group.
They're headquartered out of
Draper. Yeah. And then they're right across the valley is where 1st Battalion is.
Yep.
And so I joined 1st Battalion. Actually, I joined the group. They had a thing back then called SWTB, which is Special Warfare Training Branch.
Yep.
Because the Guard got so few slots to send to selection that they only would send somebody they felt like was really going to nail it, right?
So it's like a train up, a workup program.
Yeah. So every month drill was nothing but getting your ass handed to you.
Yeah.
Like a 3-day mini selection every month.
Yeah.
And then for AT, we went out to Camp Dawson.
Your annual training, 2 weeks a year, right?
Yeah. So for 2 weeks, we went out, the annual training, we went out to Camp Dawson, right?
In West Virginia.
Yeah.
Which is where Delta selection is.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so we used all the same facilities and the same land nav courses. And that was their culminating event that if you passed that, then they would bless off on you going to selection. So I did pass that, was in selection in the fall of 98. And they said, well, when do you want to go to the Q course? And I said, I'm ready, let's go. And they're like, no, usually we want people to recover and, and I'm like, no, I'm ready. So I was in the Q course. I got slated for class 299, which started in February of 99.
What rank are you? Because you're pretty, you
First lieutenant. Yeah. They let first, back then the Guard was allowed to send lieutenant.
And majors.
Yeah.
The majors. I went to the Q course with a major from 19th Group.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. He would have been the equivalent of a battalion or a company commander.
Or an XO.
Or an XO.
Battalion XO, yeah.
So you went as a first lieutenant. You had already been commissioned as an officer because you had military time.
Right. Because I got commissioned in the field artillery while I was selling real estate.
Got it.
And so then I was like, okay. So I went as a first lieutenant, and they were okay with that because the Guard's pipeline is a little different,
Yeah.
So I got to the Q course in 99, and
there's nothing going on, by the way, in 99.
No, nothing. Everybody's jockeying for what group they want to go to based on J sets in exotic places, right?
Yeah, 7th Group would have been prime back then, or even first group.
Yeah, everybody was wanting 1st or 7th.
Yeah.
A lot of guys wanted 10th, no one wanted 3rd.
Nobody.
Who
wants to go to Africa
exactly.
back then?
Yeah. So I get through the Q course, and while I'm in language school, I got promoted to captain. So now I was eligible for an active duty slot.
Oh.
So
I know what you did.
Yeah. Exactly. So I put in the paperwork. They made me do another PT test and road march and psych eval.
Yep. There's a board process. Yeah.
Had to sit through a board.
Yep.
But then was granted orders for active duty.
And they hold that board, interestingly enough, at Bragg, where the Q course is done, because I went through the same thing.
Yeah.
I did a sneaky because I had already been an infantry guy, and I used a Guard to get back on active duty. Same deal. A sergeant major told me, he's like, hey, dude, let me give you a secret.
Yeah.
Don't go on active duty because you'll end up in Korea. If even they need the numbers, they might even cut 30% just to get the numbers for Korea or wherever.
Right.
Do it through the Guard, and we'll guarantee you. Yeah. And there's this whole board process. So I did that same process, and it's kind of a little hidden transitional program
Yeah.
because it's kind of away from the 19th and 20th group headquarters.
Well, yeah, exactly. And the guard hates it because again, they have only so many slots,
You
right?
better not go to active duty.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then dudes are like, see ya.
Yeah. And so when I called up, this is kind of a funny part of the story is I called up the unit and said, "Hey, well, and the funny thing is it also says that you have to have somebody in your chain of command sign off on it."
Yeah.
And so that mentor at the time was the assistant to the adjutant general of the Utah National Guard.
So he signed off
So
on
I
it.
sent it to him and he put it in the AG's pile of things that had to be signed that
And he's
day.
like,
And he signed them all. I got it back. At that time, it was a fax. So he faxes it back to me.
that's right.
So then I called the unit and said, "Hey, I'm going active duty." And they said, "We'll never sign off on this."
Yeah.
And I said, "You already have." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Are you standing by your fax machine?" I'm like, zzz, hit send.
The generals.
Yeah, like, and they're like, "How'd you do this?" I'm like, "Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Thanks. Appreciate it."
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
And then back then it was paragraph in line for orders.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can go to the actual unit, and if you can get their S1 to give you a paragraph in line cut orders, you can get orders cut wherever you want.
True, but when I did the board, I'd already been through
Oh, yeah.
language school,
Yeah.
so I was a French speaker. So it really was only, well, it could have been 3 groups. It could have been technically first group because there was a little bit of French in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Could have been 10th group because, well, France, but
Yeah.
we weren't really working closely with France.
No.
So it was third group
Yeah.
because of West Africa and all the French speakers there.
Yeah.
So I was assigned to third. I wasn't really happy about it at the time. I'm thrilled with it now.
Yeah.
You know, so I went to third group. I reported in. Well, what else was funny too was they put me on active duty orders, but see, at the time, most of the guys that were showing up at the Q course as officers, well, all of them actually, had already been through their officer advanced school.
Yeah.
Like, infantry school or
Yep.
armor school. I hadn't done the advanced course because I was a first lieutenant.
Yeah.
So obviously I had to go make that up. So
Oh,
my
wow.
orders were 2 third group with the advanced course en route. So, but there was like a 3-month gap between those orders, between the moment that present and then the 3 months or when those orders began.
Wow.
So I called them back and I said, "Can you amend my orders again? And can you add Ranger School?" So I showed up at Benning in the summer. Like,
How old are you?
30 something.
Oh, so you're a senior, like you're an older guy.
Yeah.
So you're squared away. Like you
So
have
this
some life
is
experience.
2000. Yeah. So I'd have been about 31.
Yeah.
So I was a tabbed Green Beret. en
Showing up to
route.
Ranger School.
Yeah, showing up to Ranger School. But see, here's the funny thing. Here's another sneaky, right? Like technically the regulations at the time said you're not a Green Beret until you've completed the advanced course. So I was tabbed and had been awarded the Green Beret, but technically I was still a 13 Alpha field artillery officer.
When you showed up to Ranger School?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I put that on my paperwork.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I knew that, Green Berets were going to get singled out.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially
So-
back then.
Right. So I put 13 Alpha, which was true. I wasn't lying. I was technically, I was a field artillery officer with a Green Beret and an SF tab.
Yeah. And then you just kept quiet.
Yeah. Well,
then-
for a while. Then I got to mountain phase, and I still remember the guy's name. It was Sergeant First Class Johnson, a mountain instructor.
So what class did you go to in Ranger School?
999.
999. So the last class of 1999. Or the
Well, no, there were a few more, like because we started like in July. Well, I started with 899 and finished in 999.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I was 500. So the 5th class of
Yeah.
2000. So you were before me.
Yeah.
You would.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
So Sergeant First Class Johnson, mountain phase, like I'd crushed my patrols in Benning and mountains. And so Johnson one day, he's like, "Hey, Butler, Ranger Butler, get over here." I go running over there, right? He's like, "Where'd you come from?" I said, "Fort Bragg." He's like, "What were you doing at Fort Bragg?" "Tending a school." I know where, like, he's figured it out, right? I'm like,
He's trying to confirm it, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, what school, Butler? And I said, a special school. And then he just, it clicked. He's like, get over there and qualify yourself,
Yeah.
Yeah. So hanging
Which is
upside
hanging
down.
upside down in the trees, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Especially when you see a platoon of Rangers doing it.
Yeah.
It's so awesome.
So yeah, my cover was blown at that point. So then went to Florida phase and got one patrol, got a no-go, and that was it. So I got recycled.
Well, Florida's the place you want to get recycled, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You don't want to get recycled at any other phase.
Yeah. So they called me in and said, do you want to, we're offering you a chance to recycle. Do you want to recycle? And I said, no. And yeah, exactly that I like, what? Like
Yeah.
who turns down a recycle? And I said, again, it was a board. There was a captain that was running the board. And I said, listen, I was told that when I came here that I couldn't afford a recycle because I'm supposed to start the advanced course on such and such date in October, right? And he said, wait outside. And they called me back in 5 minutes later and they said, listen, Ranger, if you accept a recycle, you will graduate at Benning on Saturday such and such.
And then go straight to.
And you have 2 days to start the advanced course. I'm like,
score.
Let's roll. Let's roll.
And now they're like, okay, this dude's good.
Yeah.
I mean, they have to be like,
yeah.
All right, this is the guy you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went and knocked. I mean, that again at that point it was easy. I mean,
yeah.
And plus you're training up and things.
Yeah, Florida's the place like you want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're going to get recycled. And how many weeks did you wait between phases?
About 2.
So you're fat and happy.
Yeah.
Almost like obese and happy. Like
yeah,
you're just
exactly.
like stuffed.
Yep.
And then you go into
and rested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way.
So then I got one more patrol,
Rushed
nailed it. Yeah. So, and that's kind of a funny story too, because I showed up to the advanced course. I told my cadre, like, look, I still got camo under my fingernails, dude, I'm like, and he's like, wow, you like,
so did you show up with all your
yeah, triple tabbed captain at the advanced course.
And they're like, and guys, this time period, because there was no GWAT.
Yeah.
Everything that you were judged on was based on your uniform.
Yeah.
That was your DD-214.
Yep.
And or ERB or whatever ORB.
Yeah.
So you showed up and they're like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. And back then, because I'd come through the Guard, I'd already done the Q course, whereas a lot of these guys were going straight. The other guys that were in SF or had SF intentions, they had to go to they have to go to the advanced course first. I did it backwards. See, so they were like G2 and me the whole course. Like everybody wanted to buy me lunch every day,
which is fun.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
Tell me about this. Tell me about that. Like, okay, whatever. So then our cadre throws his back out because he'd been a heavyweight wrestler at West Point and had a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
So I get a new cadre. We get to the end of the first cycle, I can't even think of it, like evals, right?
Yeah.
Just academic eval, counseling.
Yeah.
So he pulls me in for counseling and it was unsat. Like, here's your unsat counseling, And I'm like, what? Like, this is an academic gentleman's course. How am I getting an unsat? And he's like, listen, for a Green Beret Ranger qualified captain, for you to get 277 on your entrance PT exam, like that
just came out of Ranger school.
He didn't know because he was the one that replaced the guy that did know, and that didn't get handed over in the in the handoff.
You had been sustained combat for 3 months.
Yeah. So I took his little unsat eval. I said, you know what, I'm going to sign this, but then I want to tell you why. And he's like, like whatever excuse you got.
Yeah, what excuse you got?
Yeah, for not doing PT, for having a 277, which is still by big army. Yeah, big
after
army.
3 months of Ranger school.
Yeah. Well, even in big army standards, it was a pretty decent score.
It's huge. 277 is like huge.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a 90%.
Yeah.
So I told him a story. I said, listen, man, I took that PT test 48 hours. Look at my ORB. Look at the dates. I finished Ranger school 48 hours before that PT test, man. And then like his eyes were like, oh, like maybe I should have asked a question or two, So anyway, he ended up tearing it up, but I was like,
oh, so he was cool about it.
Yeah. Like he just didn't know. He just thought I was,
Yeah. sandbagging.
Yeah.
You probably thought you were just but even then,
It wasn't.
during that time period, a 270 something is a great PT score.
Yeah.
I was like in the 270s or 290s because the run standard back then was 11:54
Yeah.
for a max
Yeah.
for a 2-mile run, which
Yep.
is back then was impossible if you were our size. If you were a
Yeah.
bigger guy, you would ruck and crush it. But to run that distance that quickly, 11:54, and then it became 13 minutes.
Yeah. In fact, I think it was the run that killed me on that PT test because, of course, push-ups and sit-ups, you were doing those all day long when you're getting smoked. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Your cardio's crap. Come out of Ranger school. I did the same thing with 2 days between Ranger school and airborne school. I went to airborne school after.
Yeah. Wow.
My unit said, "Hey, we're going to give you an airborne slot." I'm like, "When does it start?" They're like, "Monday." And this is like I'm graduating Friday.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh my God, do I have to take the PT test?" Yes. And I'm like, and I remember a female running by me on the run.
Yeah.
And I'm just like trying to catch her, and I couldn't catch her, man. My cardio was garbage.
Yeah, exactly. So finished up the advanced course and reported into my team in the spring of 2000.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you did a lot in this short period of time.
Yeah. No, I was
Crushing.
basically from selection in 98 to this late spring of 2000, I was just in school
the whole time.
Yeah. Selection, Q course, language school, SEER school, Ranger school, advanced course team.
Wow, dude.
Yeah, that's
the way to get it done.
Yeah.
Knock it out early.
Yep. So showed up to ODA 332, so 1st Battalion 3rd Group.
Yep, 332, yeah.
Yeah, good team. Well, actually, they'd gone through an entire whitewash of leadership. So they didn't have a captain. The warrant was functioning as the team leader.
Mm.
The warrant was on his way out to a classified team that worked with the Department of Energy.
Yep, I remember those.
Yep.
Yep.
There wasn't a team leader, and the team sergeant got relieved because of some business downrange with the embassy, with somebody that worked at the embassy.
Oh, that happens every
rotation. Yeah. So
was that team called the Grizzly Hitch? That wasn't Grizzly Hitch, was it?
The one that the warrant went to.
Yeah. Grizzly Hitch. Yeah.
It was.
It just popped in my mind because everybody was like, "You need to go to Grizzly Hitch." I was like, "What is that?" And everybody was like, "Oh, you can't talk about it." And I was like, "Okay," but I remember the name Grizzly Hitch. Yeah.
Yep. So so we got whitewashed in, myself, the team sergeant, and a new warrant, like all within a couple weeks of each other. And there was already a deployment on the books to Kuwait. So it was our crucible. Like the three of us came together and said, okay, this is what this team is going to be.
That's cool.
And it was like, you're either with us or you're not.
Yeah.
Right. And the team sergeant was he had been an 18 X-ray who didn't make it. And then he had gone to Korea, and then he'd come back to the 82nd, and then he'd went SF.
Yeah.
But he was still like hardcore infantry.
So he had a good baseline.
Yeah. Like he still wore a flat tie, like a high and tight, which in SF made him sort of the pariah amongst team sergeants.
Yeah. But he at least had a standard.
But, he had the standard.
Yeah.
He was the standard.
He was the standard.
What
was his name?
Joe Baker.
Oh, I know Joe Baker.
Yeah. Well, he was also an instructor out at SUT.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was a good dude. Good.
Super squared away.
Yeah, super squared away. And so, like, guys had been sort of lacking leadership on that team for a long time. And so they were used to sort of like going off the reservation.
Yeah.
So we'd go out for PT and the night before, on team board, you'd write like PT 06, black running shorts, brown t-shirt, 5-mile run, flagpole, that type, what we're used to, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Some dude would show up with like blue basketball shorts and, and a Nike t-shirt, right? So he'd be like, okay, sir, I'm going to go take care of so-and-so, give him a counseling statement. You got the formation, see you at breakfast, right?
Wow.
Hand me the formation, go do that. Second day, same guy, same thing, same result. He says, sir, same, take it. I'm going to go deal with this. I met him on day 2. I met him for breakfast. I'm like, where's so-and-so this time, He's like, see that plane taking off right now? So he started just sending dudes home, back to the B team,
Yeah,
like no,
firing
yeah,
dudes.
yeah. So by the time we got home from that deployment, we had, I think it was 6 guys on the team, counting me, the team sergeant, and the warrant.
Which was that kind of the norm back then? Because I know a lot.
We were thin. I mean, I think we
Yeah,
went over there with like 9 or 10,
yeah.
but I think he sent or so. But yeah, we sent a couple guys home from that deployment.
Well, the fact that he got I reported a third group later than you did, but when I was there, it was hard to fire guys. I mean, we were
Oh
propelled
yeah,
into the GWAT, but you couldn't do that. And then because company sergeant majors would be like, well, you got to fix the problem, fix the problem, fix the problem. It's like, dude, this dude sucks, or
yeah.
he's not meeting the standard. He can't do PT. And they're like, no, let's work on it. And they were scared of the numbers, but back then they were just hacking dudes off.
Yeah,
That's good.
and one of the reasons that we had the support to it as well is because we were attached to Fifth Group.
Okay.
So in fact, that was my first encounter with what would become. I think he retired as a 1-star, but Brigadier General Don Bulldog.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and he was the Siege sort of commander. Our paths would end up crossing a number of times, but at that time, our team was attached to his Fifth Group company.
Yeah. And Bulldog was known as an aggressive combat leader, and he's got some drama attached to him because of the Africa thing that happened in Niger. But he was super aggressive. I've always liked him because he was super aggressive.
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah, he's the one that coined, pursue, punish. What was it? There were 3 P's: pursue, punish, something.
Prosecute,
prosecute. Yeah,
yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but yeah, as a Siege sort of commander.
Yeah.
So in any case, that was our first engagement with him. The team came together and we had a great team. So by the time 9/11 happened, we had this really seasoned, we'd rebuilt the team, and we were firing on all 8 cylinders.
Did you have a specialty for your team?
No, we were
mobility.
We were a ruck team.
Ruck team, yeah.
I mean, we did. We were, we were we had a classified mission that dealt with pilots.
Yeah, so back then for you guys, like special forces teams in a company had specialties and specific mission sets.
Yeah.
And third group was pretty unique. Like I talked to 10th group guys too. One of my old teams that I was a team sergeant of used to be a Whiskey Niner team, which was Halo, Scuba, and they did the Nuke, which is their classified mission set. But it was like ruck, mobility, mountain, which is pretty new, Scuba, and Halo.
Even
teams,
WIC.
Right? Yeah, what was that?
That was water infill. And
that's right.
Yeah,
Merops. We used to call Merops.
Merops, yeah. WIC or Merops and the Zodiacs.
Zodiacs.
Work,
that was my first team.
Yeah.
362 in Charlie Company.
Yeah. In fact, I was in Charlie Company, and I got there right after the WIC team had an accident that killed the battalion commander.
Was that the one at Mott Lake?
No, that was in Savannah on the river.
Oh, yes.
Colonel Boyles, Lieutenant Colonel Boyles.
Were you there for that?
No, I got there a couple months. So I had three company commanders.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. You don't normally get that many company commanders, but the first one had been in command when this accident happened, so he was moved off. Then I had a second company commander for the majority of my time there. Then my third company commander had been a 10th Group E7, who'd then gone through from green to gold, came back or OCS, came back through OCS and was a company commander, but he hit his 20 right after that.
Typically,
yeah. So he got out as a major
right after a company time.
Yeah.
So you're in third group, and then how do you migrate? How do you start? What's your path?
Yeah. So yeah, oh, man. So let's talk about that. So right after 9/11 happened, we were pretty pumped because I was a senior team leader in battalion. Like I said, the team was firing on all pistons. We were pretty excited. We were going to go into we knew we were going into Afghanistan. I think we went up to Fort Pickett and did a training event, train up for it. And right after that event, that second company commander of mine was now the XO. And he couldn't get along with the battalion S4, so he fired him. And the battalion S4 had been a logistician. He was Back then we didn't have GSC and GSB, right?
Yeah.
We only had like the support detachment, support platoon.
Yeah.
And he'd been the platoon leader there, and then come up to the battalion as the S4, and the XO fired him and said, "Hey Butler, you're my guy. I'm going to make you the S4."
Which in officer speak is actually a promotion, but
Yeah,
it's not what you want,
right,
obviously.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like I'm getting brought up to staff, I'm giving more responsibility, but A, I don't know anything about logistics, and B, like I still hadn't hit my 2-year mark on my team, so I wanted to
To
milk
finish your
that,
time.
and
Yeah.
I wanted to go to combat.
Yeah.
So he calls me up there and says that, and I said I'm not going to do it. And then the battalion commander called me into his office and said, "Yes, you are going to do it." So then I think we're going to see a trend here. I pulled another sneaky boy because
Back
I
then, you could do sneaky boy all the time.
yeah
It
yeah
was great. Nothing was tracked electronically. You could do a lot of sneaky
you
boy
could do a
moves.
lot of yeah you
Yeah.
could. And so I had already taken the PT test for Delta
Yeah.
and passed, and was given an invitation to come to selection.
Yeah.
But I had also filled out the paperwork to go to Virginia.
Yeah. What's the cover name?
Well,
J Reg? Is
J
it J Reg?
no, it's yeah. Sorry, yeah, it is J Reg. Sorry, I had a brain
Yeah.
fart for a minute. But J
Back
Reg,
then it was J Reg.
Orange,
Yeah. TFO now.
TFO, yeah.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
sorts of nicknames.
Yeah.
So I'd already filled out the paperwork with them. And so all these conversations are happening like in February, March of 2002. Okay.
Yeah.
And my team's getting ready to launch into Afghanistan, and I'm trying to figure out how to do logistics for an entire battalion with no training. And then lastly, I'm like, so I go into the XO's office and said, "Yeah, here's my orders. I'm going to selection out in Nevada." And yeah, you're not gonna make it. I'm gonna make your life hell when you get back. All these things.
That's how it was back then too.
Yeah.
Just if you decided, when I was in the SIF in B23 in third group, when I wanted to go to unit selection, they were like, "Cool, bye,"
Yeah.
and there was no coming back from it.
See, right, and here's the thing that I've always, I guess, felt. I've never understood the cognitive dissonance around that, right?
Yeah.
Because back then we didn't have the X-ray program. We had it, we had gone away from it, we brought it back later.
Yep.
But still, the majority then and still to this day of people who come to SF
Senior
have
guys.
left their primary MOS.
Yeah, they had big army time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so everybody in the SF community leaves somebody to go there. So why do we suddenly think it's then bad for somebody in the SF community to go on to tier 1 units?
What I saw was guys who were like heavy hitters that wanted to develop and evolve. They were supportive.
Yeah.
But there was always a story with the guys who didn't support it.
Yeah.
Because they had went to selection, they didn't make it, or they knew a buddy that had went there and got wrong. Whatever it was, they had some kind of personal connection.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. And jealousy.
Yeah.
I mean, when I came back from West Virginia selection, dude, there was a camp of dudes that were like, "That's so awesome," and there was a camp of dudes that were like, "You're a traitor."
Yeah.
A traitor to what? I'm trying to evolve in this game. The whole game is kill capture, like operations, missions, whatever you want to put the purpose behind. But why are you hating on me because I just want to go and go down the road and work at a different building that's actually getting the authorities and the permissions to go kill bad guys?
Yeah, exactly.
Why is that a bad thing?
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt about it too. So I went to selection, I passed, I came back.
No, you didn't have a hard time in selection? You just smoked it?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah. I mean, it was hard. I feel like there were a lot of hard parts. It was really, I mean, yes, it was hard, but I did also feel like I crushed it. I mean,
Yeah.
The part where you're trained and then you have to, a couple weeks go by and then they bring out a radio that you were trained on that you only saw once in class 2 weeks ago. Now you have to put it in operation. That was challenging. There were a lot of challenging things. The urban phase was challenging. It was good, but I it was also fun, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
When you're
uh,
motivated, that stuff's not hard. Like people ask me about selections, and I'm
yeah,
like, dude, when you're in it and you're committed to it,
yeah,
it ain't. I didn't think SFAS was hard at all.
yeah, exactly. Like, and that's one of the things too. And this brings us back to like being full circle. And I put this in my book. Is it's like, you know, people ask you, was it hard, you know, doing this? Was it hard going to selection? Was it hard going to the course? Like the the pat answer is yeah, it was, and it was. Right? I mean, there were plenty of times where you're, you know,
This
ground
sucks.
down, and
Yeah,
yeah, run into the
but
ground.
it's also awesome.
Right. But then there's this part of me too that like as a 12-year-old, it was my responsibility to get up, break the ice in the water troughs, feed the cows, the chickens, the pigs, the horses, bring in 2 loads of wood so that my mother had wood in the house
Yeah,
throughout the day before I could even catch the bus at 7:30.
yeah.
Right? Like
You were
as
used to work.
yeah, I was a farm boy. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? So it was like, yeah, you know, I got this, you know, type of thing, you
yeah.
know. Hard work is not new to me. So went to selection, came back, gave my XO.
What was the dynamic when you came back and you were selected? Were they like, oh shit?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there was nothing said really, nothing. Like it was so anticlimactic. I don't think I mean, I did get an award. Like I got a plaque for being the S4 for 3 months or 4 months or whatever it was.
Yeah,
You know, I quietly just moved on. I came back, gave the XO my orders to, you know, I'm going up to go to OTC. So see ya, bye.
yeah.
And I started out processing the unit and the installation, and was up in Virginia a few months later.
How? What was the experience going through training, knowing? Because I imagine it's probably the first. It's got to be the first or second class propelled into the
Yeah.
GWAT.
Um. Yeah. Maybe the second. Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, no. Actually, I take that back. It was the first
yeah,
because they only at that time only ran one selection and one course a year.
yeah,
So, yeah, there was some really good intensity behind that. Some real purposeful training. Some real, uh, I guess, informed
Hmm.
training based on what they were seeing. Yeah, so it was great.
And you were. How many officers are in your class? There's got to be
Well, there were only like maybe 22 of us, 24
total.
of us total in the class, and there were maybe um I don't know, there was a bit. I mean, maybe like 8, 6 to 8.
Hmm.
So a fair bit, you know.
Yeah.
Like General Rick Engel was in my class.
Wow.
I think he was uh the first Special Forces Group commander, or you know, for a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, we had a good class. But like right up front, I want to say I didn't pass.
Hmm.
Yeah, I want to make that real clear. I mean, I completed it.
Yeah.
We got all the way to, and I know exactly where I fell down. Like I know where it ended.
Yeah.
And this
The
is,
moment within.
yeah, yeah, I know exactly what happened. And so this is an interesting story. One of my buddies, I'll call him my ranger buddy, like because we sat next to each other during classroom portions, and we were really close, and like, you know, I was the godfather of his child, and you know, like all these things, right? So we were really close. And he later, so fast forward several years, I'm in ILE, which is, you know, used CGSC out at or Fort Leavenworth, right?
Yeah.
And I get this email, and this would have been like in 2009, or no, excuse me, 2008. 2008, I get an email that says, "Hey, a highly classified unit in the DC area is interested in your skill set and would like to talk to you about a position after CGSC." And yeah, like my thought was like either A, these guys are really suck at admin and forgot that they had already cut me,
Yeah.
or B, there's another unit out there that I don't know about.
Oh.
Either way,
Which exist. For
right,
sure.
right. So either way, I'm going to go to this interview. So I replied yes. I RSVP'd, like I'll go to this. So I walk into
And you're a major at the time?
yeah,
Yeah.
major. So Fort Leavenworth only has one skiff. It's in the library, and that's where they were conducting the interview. So I walk in and I see my buddy, my ranger buddy, in a glass room conducting an interview, and I just do a 180 and walk out. And before I could get to the elevator, he caught up with me. He's like, Matt, slow down. Like I deliberately sent you that email. I need to talk to you. Like, let me finish this interview. And then, so I go in, sit down, the little counterintelligence person comes over and slides me a packet to start filling out, and I just slid it back to her. I'm like, oh, sweetie, you don't even know who I am. Thank you. You
Yeah.
keep this.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
here to talk to that man, you know?
Yeah.
So Rich brings me in, and we have a conversation, and he's like, listen, man, I'm the squadron commander now for S&T, which,
Selection and training.
yeah, exactly. Selection and training. And so they run selection, they run OTC. And he said, I wanted to speak to you. I wanted to give you an explanation, and I also wanted to give you an update. So the explanation is back then only it had to be unanimous vote by all cadre at the end of the OTC, and if there was one dissenting vote, you were out.
That's how the unit works too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I got
One person could do that.
Yep, I got a dissenting vote by one guy.
Yeah.
And he says we've since changed that. So now that it's a majority vote or 2/3 vote, I don't know, but it's not unanimous anymore.
So it's not personality based, which
Right.
often that was.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And so what happened was when I was training, when I was going through OTC, there was a point where we went out to the farm with the CIA, and our next training event, our next iteration was with SEAL Team 6. So they brought us these wetsuits to try on. And the only one that fit me was lime green, like neon lime green. Yeah, exactly. And I'm a joker, man. I just am.
Yeah.
I'm just a joker. That's
Yeah,
who I
yeah.
am, right? It's my coping mechanism. So and also on the farm campus, there's hundreds of bicycles so that you can bike from one facility to the other, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a bike exchange. And for whatever reason, it just hit me like, I need to go for a ride. So here's, 6'1", 220-pound Matt stuffed in a lime green wetsuit, riding around the farm campus, CIA campus on a bike. And that cadre saw me and locked eyes with me. And when I got let go, I knew at that moment,
That
months
was the
later,
moment where he's
that
like,
it was that. It was
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I was done.
yeah.
I didn't know. They let me go through the course, another whatever months it was. But yeah, I knew that was why.
Dude. And that's
So-
crazy about the one vote thing. So
Yeah.
so he's trying to change it. Is he trying to get you back in the building?
Yeah, he wanted me to come back. So he said, like, we want you to come back and be a staff officer. I said, let me see if I got this right. You guys let me go because of a personality conflict, wrecked my career because at that point I'm persona non grata with SF
Yeah.
because like we were talking about,
committed, yeah.
I committed high treason by going to this unit.
Yep.
So they didn't want me, they had kept me at arm's length. So I didn't graduate because of a personality conflict. B, you wrecked my career. C, now I need a what's called a KD, a key developmental position. I need a key developmental position, but you're offering me to come up and be staff fodder because you guys didn't think through the GWAT well enough. And when you had a chance to keep me in the unit, to have eliminated the problem that you now find yourself in, you want me to bail yourself out. Is that the summary?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, you pretty much nailed it. I'm like, I love you, bro. I'll do anything for you, but I think I'm going to move on professionally.
Yeah.
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 So I never went back, but I was invited back as a staff officer.
Yeah.
But no, I was on, and that's another interesting part too. I was on orders to go back because I was persona non grata, right? Like SF, like no matter how many times I begged and pleaded to get back into group, they kept me out of group from 2003 until I went back to group in 2008.
Yeah.
So I was out of group for 5 years. Brutal. But anyway, finally I was on orders to go back to USASOC as a staff officer. So essentially I was going to run a desk, like either the PACOM desk or the UCOM desk, be sitting in a basement, getting slides ready for the 8 o'clock update
CG
to the
brief.
general. Yeah,
Yeah.
CG brief. And I was walking into graduation from CGSC, and one of my soft cadre said, "Hey, Butler, come here." And it just completely right time, right place. I don't think he had my name. I think I just was the first guy he crossed path with.
Yeah.
He said, "Hey, do you want a company command?" "Yes, sir." He said, "Here, call this number. Tell them that I told you to call them and tell them you'll take the company." And I said, "Okay, where's it at?" Like I'd already committed. Like, I don't know. Am I going to Korea? Am I going to
Yeah.
Oki? Am I going Fort Carson? I got no clue. And so I called the number and spoke to a guy at Branch, and I said, "Yeah, so and so gave me this number, told me to call about the company," and he says, "Yeah, you're going to third group GSC." And I said, "What's a GSC?"
Yeah, because
Because I'd been away from SF at that time, right? And so I was back to the General Support Battalion, General Support Company within that. And what's interesting and cool is my first sergeant at the time had been my senior Bravo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so he went
You
on
had
to
good
be,
rapport with him.
yeah. So he went on to be a CSM of third group. And then
Who's that?
Chris Robbie.
Okay, I know Robbie too. I didn't. Yeah, Robbie. He was one of my CSMs.
Yeah, he was well, you brought up the Niger thing.
Yeah,
He was the battalion CSM.
that's right.
Yeah, during that.
Yeah, Painter, who was my former team leader, was the company commander.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then the other guy, the first sergeant that replaced him, was a man by the name of Bruce Holmes. And Bruce Holmes, he went on, I think he was the UCOM sergeant major.
Yep.
Or not UCOM, but SOCUR.
SOCUR, yeah.
SOCUR sergeant major. So anyway, finally got back to group, did a company command there. Then I went over to, at that time, my first marriage was struggling. We were in trouble. And so I was trying to do some stability. So I didn't want to leave Bragg. So I went over to JSOC and loved it. I started there as a planner in one of the team planning bays where we would plan the exercises for Delta and SEAL Team 6.
Yeah.
So I ended up planning a large exercise out to Cambodia with those guys.
Call them JREX. Is it JREX? Joint Readiness Exercise?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. There's level 1, 2, and 3s.
Mm-hmm.
So we're putting one of those on. After that, the deputy moved on. So I got brought up to be the deputy J7 at JSOC. So now I was managing 3 of those planning teams.
Yeah.
So I did a couple years there.
And JSOC's a great building to work in.
Oh,
no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
The schedule, the people.
Yeah.
They're highly engaged on relevancy.
Yeah, it's really, really high functioning professional.
Yeah.
Like you can't work. I mean, I would say that for most of the soft community, but in terms of like a staff, that was a really great experience.
Yeah.
I worked mostly closely at the time. The CG was General Votel.
Yeah.
I have so much respect for that man.
Yeah.
And he's the one that kind of informed me that my career was over. Because what I mean by that is I promoted from major to lieutenant colonel at that time. And, I was really, I'd done good stuff. I deployed a couple of times. I'd gone to, JREG. I wasn't a shit bag.
Yeah.
But when I put in my packet for battalion command, he, and which was also the same time I was getting promoted, my OER was due, he gave me center mass. And what was really interesting is right before he gave me that center mass OER, he'd told me that the job I'd done for him downrange, which was running the Afghan JOC. So what most people don't know, at that time in the war, a mission would come in, it'd go through the task force staff, and then they would push it downstairs to me, and then I would review it, and then I would hand it off to my Afghan counterparts.
Yeah, and they do the whole plan up.
And they would sign off on it based on, whether we thought there were women in the village or different things, and then I would pass it back up, and then it would go for execution.
Yeah, and you did that for Votel.
I did that for Votel, and he said that's the best I'd ever seen anybody do that job, Matt. I still.
So then why the mid?
Then right. So I the only time in my military career I exercised the open door policy was I'm like, sir, you just told me here's the email you sent me saying I nailed this. I'm the best you've ever seen do it. You know, couldn't have done it without me. And I'm getting a center mass OER. And he's like, listen, Matt, I only have so many above center mass OERs I can give. And you technically deserve it, but your career is not going to go beyond lieutenant colonel. So I'm going to judiciously give it to. Now, you got to remember, as a lieutenant colonel, I'm competing against all the other O5s in his command, which means squadron commanders in Delta and SEAL Team 6 as well.
Yeah. And they've
as
already
a senior raider.
And they started junior officers and they've checked all the blocks all the way up.
So it not only made sense in terms of like just numbers like staff officer versus squadron commander, but he was the one that had to say, look, you're not going to go beyond lieutenant colonel.
And time in service was a potential of that too, right? You're about to retire, I imagine.
Yeah, a little bit.
You're a young lieutenant colonel?
Yeah. And so he's like, it all has to do with the fact that you're not going to get a battalion. And I said, well, why won't I get a battalion? And so then he brought in at that time you had an Army, Navy, and Air Force 05 lieutenant colonel in the J1 because everybody had different regs. So he had to bring in the Army J1 to explain it to me. Like basically because I went up to JREG and I didn't have battalion XO or battalion S3 time, like they said you'll never even ever be considered for battalion command.
Wow.
But see, the thing is like, not only did General Votel take the time to live up to his open door policy.
Yeah.
And, you know.
He didn't just blow you off.
Right. He spent like an hour with me.
Wow.
And that man's a busy man. He's running JSOC during the GWAT.
Yeah.
And he spent an hour with me. And like, I think I had more respect for the way that he ended my career, in essence.
Yeah.
But with kindness and with compassion and, you know, just really cared for one of his soldiers, you know?
Yeah, there's no take back either. It's not like you can go check that block as a lieutenant colonel. You just, once it's out, then you miss that bracket. At least he was honest with you.
Yep.
And then did he give you options?
No, not really. Like, not at that point. I still had a little bit of time left in JSOC, but I got an invite to go to SOCOM after that from another general, a man named General Sokolic.
That name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he spent a lot of time in like USAFIC and USASOC. And that's how he met me. I'd written an article because as a GSC commander, what I noticed is that like the 160th, Delta, Rangers, everybody, they all had a selection for their support soldiers.
Yeah, that's right.
But group does not.
No. You can get cut orders from your advanced training.
Right.
And literally just show up and you're like, what am I doing?
Right. So like, let's say let's say 30 engineers from Fort Leonard Wood report to 18th Airborne Replacement on Bragg.
Yeah.
And let's say 25 of them are going to 18th Airborne Corps and the 82nd Airborne Division and wherever, right? And 5 of them are getting fenced off and coming to 3rd Group, to GSC, to my company, right?
Yeah.
Well, the 25 that go to the 82nd Airborne, if they go downrange, they're never going to be more than an arm's length from a battle buddy, a team leader, a squad leader, and a platoon sergeant.
Yeah.
My guys, like they might be sliced off as a singleton and put on a fire base in the Aruzgan Valley.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
gunning on a gun.
On a gun.
Yeah.
On a gun. So there's a need for a higher capacity for training because they need additional training, pre-deployment training. And then secondly, it's all the maturity things. Like, did he just fall in love with a stripper and like let her move into his apartment and give her his checkbook before he deployed? That kind of thing that a platoon sergeant would be watching out for, or a team leader or a squad leader, but he didn't have that support network at GSC.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, because they're just in the office.
They're just, like, okay, like we're attaching you to this ODA. Good luck, stud.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And with no adult supervision, because the ODA isn't going to be looking out for him like in terms of his personal life.
No, they're like, can you shoot a gun?
Right.
Yeah. Get up on the 50 cal. It's like, I'm a cook. I don't care. Now you're a machine gunner.
Exactly.
What?
So I had written an article called "A Few Good Men," based on my GSC time. And it wasn't to say that my support troops were bad. It was just saying like, hey, this is like a glaring problem.
Ill prepared.
Yeah, we're the only Army USASOC element at that time that wasn't running some sort of a selection to address what support guys we were getting.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody else did.
Everybody, even the Rangers. I mean, the Rangers were very good at it.
Yeah, they had RASP.
Yeah.
Was it RASP?
At the time, RIP, and then evolved into RASP.
Yeah. So everybody had a selection but us. So Sokolic read my article and said, hey, I want you to create this. Come with me to SOCOM, and I'll let you create selection for support troops for all of Green Beret, for the whole Green Beret community. Well, I signed into SOCOM, and they're like, well, you're on orders to Afghanistan. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, it's odd that I would show up and then need to report, deploy right away. And they're like, well, yeah, so many of the other O5s have declined it. And I'm like, I didn't know we had the ability to decline orders to combat. Okay. Like, so that was kind of eye-opening, and also like really, I guess, like, made me disrespect a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
But so anyway, I found myself on what would have been my final deployment.
A year deployment, I imagine.
Yeah, 6 out of 6, and it was a year deployment. And that one was with NSOC Alpha, so the NATO Special Operations. So it was they had just stood it up the year before. I think it was with, I can't think of his name, Reeder. I think General Reeder was the first NSOC commander, and then he handed off to General Miller, Austin Miller, who had been over in Delta. So anyway, I spent a year on General Miller's staff in Kabul from 13 to 14.
Pretty hot years.
Yeah.
Pretty active year as well.
Yep. So I did that, came back, and then General Sokolic had already moved, and nobody had even heard about my plan or my program and all that. And so I was in SOCOM going like without a job, really.
Wow.
Like, they didn't know what to do with me because Sokolic had left.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to stay engaged. And so I'd met some guys that had done AWG, the Asymmetric Warfare Go, which was also a Votel brainchild.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, I'll go to AWG. So I did another selection. I think I did 5 selections in total.
Wow.
Because I did SFAS, then a mini selection into SFAS when I went on active duty. I did the JREG selection, the JSOC selection, and then the AWG selection. So 5 total selections.
And AWG is a great job.
Yeah.
I almost went to AWG because they tried to recruit me in Libya when I was at E8, and I just saw they had every capability to interoperate and do whatever they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Where I was like, and they were considered a tier 1 unit at that time before they broke off and there was a weird thing that happened.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, dude, it's great. Like the guys that I worked with one dude's call sign was Pup. He was a former unit guy. He had a twin brother in the unit as well. And I think he got let go from the unit. Some stuff happened, which does happen. But he was happier in AWG. So he loved it.
Yeah, no, I have a lot of good friends still from there. I conceptually, I think the unit was brilliant. And when I first got there, I think we were doing really good stuff. It was the final commander that I was under that really, I think, kind of wrecked it and caused its downfall.
Yeah.
Like it
did fall apart.
They did. Yeah. It's not even a unit anymore.
Oh, wow.
They folded the flag.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was because in my opinion, they spread too thin. Like, they were trying to write doctrine for subterranean. Like, if we had to go into Mumbai,
deep underground.
Right. Yeah. And fight in tunnels and things like that. Right. Like, okay. So they were trying to write that doctrine. They were still trying to stay engaged in the GWAT, and they also were teaching, like, my specific job there was the leadership detachment. So we were teaching leadership to the cadre and staff of each of the centers of excellence throughout the whole Army, right? So there were like 13 of those.
That sounds like you're over diversified.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that I think was what led to the downfall, in addition to the idea that the commander of AWG reported his raider, not senior raider, but raider, was the 4-star general of TRADOC. So all of his peers were 2-star generals that ran each of the centers of excellence.
Wow.
So you're the run of the litter.
Yeah.
You're
getting stepped on.
Yeah.
Shit on.
Right. Like that's a big, like, even though it's only 2 promotions from colonel to major general, that's a cavern
Yeah.
in rank. That's a cavern.
So it's doomed to fail.
Yeah. So
is there a point now where you're like, hey, you just did a year trip? Dude, a year in Afghanistan is a long time.
yeah, that was actually, since we're talking about, shamanism, which is really a larger conversation about mental health. Like I really felt like my mental health took a real hit in that trip.
Yeah.
Like we were used to doing 3 and 6 month deployments, and especially on a 3 or 4 month deployment, you're already, by the time you're, already unpack your kit, you're starting to think about packing your kit back up, right?
Yeah.
A year's a whole nother ball of wax, man.
Yeah, especially in the job, because look, you could be a specialist in the 82nd Airborne Division, and your job day to day is waking up and guarding an outpost.
Yeah.
That's very different in a pattern of life of being completely and fully engaged every single day with no breaks. I mean, there's like literally no breaks.
True.
The break is when you're sleeping,
Yep.
So a year's a long time.
It's a real long time, yeah.
Did you come back from that and you're like, I'm hanging it up?
No, that's when I transitioned up to AWG, and at that time I'd just gotten remarried, and so I was just trying to get stability. So what made me hang it up was I got a phone call one day from another friend of mine who had been a team leader and a company commander with me in 3rd Group, who is now branch chief, and said, "Hey, Matt."
That's always a good connection to have.
Well, not necessarily.
Oh.
It didn't work out for me because he called me up and said, "Hey, Matt, I got to move you." And I said, "Well, I don't have any intention of moving. I'm going to ride out AWG for as long as I can till I can retire." And I was already at my 20, I was 20 plus. And so he says, well, no, you don't have a choice. I need, you're an 05 without a battalion command. You're not going to get promoted. So essentially I'm cannon fodder, so.
Yeah.
So
where's the crappiest place we could put you?
Yeah, exactly. So what do you have in mind, Mike? And he said, you're going to the Pentagon. And like that's a no for me right there from the get-go. And then he said, no, on top of that, because I already lived in Maryland, and the proximity from Fort Meade to the Pentagon, I wasn't allowed a PCS. And so
it was the easiest move for him.
Yeah. So essentially I was going to have to drive into an hour and a half to the Pentagon.
Wow.
Probably be like, have to leave my house at like 4:30 in the morning, be there by 6, probably work until like 1900 at night, get home at 8:30, go to sleep and repeat. And so
it's like a deployment.
Yeah. So I said, no, man, that's it. I'm done. You'll have my letter on Monday morning. And so I retired. Yeah. So
what did he say? He's like, all right.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's like, okay. So I gave him retirement paperwork and spent a year retiring, and I was out by May of 17.
Wow.
So that leads us into the whole, how did I get into the next chapter of my life?
Yeah.
I was back here in Utah. I didn't want to come to Utah, but my wife at the time, she wanted her kids to be closer to their biological father, which lived in Utah. So we made the decision to come back to Utah as a family. The first year I spent contracting. I landed a corporate job, which was not a good fit for me.
Never is.
No. And so I did that up until 2020, and then it was the middle of COVID, so they let me go. But I'd already seen a posting for a job back at the SOMTC, which a lot of guys think of the medical training center, but this was the Special Ops Mission Training Center. So it's out on like going towards Chicken Road and Range 47 and all that. It's where 3rd Group is now, where they moved their group headquarters to. But there's a little building there where they run and basically what we did is what I was doing in JSOC in the J7 training. It was putting on exercises for battalion and group size staffs.
Yeah.
So I went there and worked there for a year, and then I came back because my family, my dad was having some failing health issues and stuff. So I came back, but at the same time, let me backtrack. So back in 2017, when I got out, I was also wrestling with addiction, alcoholism. I'd already been diagnosed with complex PTSD, suicidal ideation, and treatment resistant depression, all of which I just ignored. All of which I was like, yeah, sure, but you don't
Thanks.
understand.
Yeah.
I'm already, I was diagnosed with that in 2011. So, I was in JSOC. And so I was like, that can't be right. Like I'm in, this caliber of unit, I'm performing at this, this level. Like I don't really buy into your diagnoses, right? So then I get out in 2017 and things really just kind of continue to escalate or, go
Go
downhill.
downhill. Yeah.
Yeah. Life was way more challenging. The alcoholism was more out of control. And what was different was now that I'm back around family, like now I can't hide it as well either. And so my family was getting pretty alarmed. And ultimately, I got into an argument with my father, and it was just verbal. But, my parents are pretty Christian folk and,
Conservative. Very
yeah, very
traditional.
conservative, traditional. And I was dropping a lot of F bombs during this argument. And, I was relying on what my therapist had taught me about, like, okay, my palms are starting to, I'm starting to make fists. My breath is rapid, all these things. I knew I was getting into fight flight, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to leave. So F this, F you, and I get up to leave. And my dad, who's in his 70s at the time, yells, get your ass back here. And what he meant was, apologize to your mother for your
Of
language,
course. Yeah.
right? But what I hear in my fight flight, in my
Confrontation.
rage, yeah, is just if I got fight and flight and you take away flight, then all you got is fight. So I turned around and he was coming at me, and I punched a wall to simply say, think twice about your next step, old man,
Yeah.
But he turned to my sister and said, call the cops. And so cops come. I sit in my truck the whole time waiting for the cops to show up. It's 45 minutes because, where we live. And they get there. I tell them the story basically like I just told that, 5 minutes or less. They go in the house. They're in there another 45 minutes. They finally come out, and I roll down the window. I'm just perturbed at this point. I'm impatient. I want to go home and mow my lawn. It was a Saturday,
Yeah.
And I roll down the window and lean out, like, can I go now? Like, stop wasting my time attitude. And they're just like, Mr. Butler, we need you to step out of the car, put your hands on the hood. And I was like, it was like tunnel vision, man. It was like, you know what I mean? Like what the is happening here? So I got arrested, go to jail. And that's where I tell everybody, like, two things that really happened at that moment was, number one, I realized that I really have been lying to myself about the addiction, the alcohol, the PTSD, whatever, right? And second of all, that I was in that that loop of like wanting to do something differently or doing the same thing over and over, but wanting a different outcome, right?
Yeah.
The insanity loop. So I was like, okay, I got to really solve this problem. So when I got out, I made it my mission to like really truly try to understand what was wrong and how to fix it.
Yeah.
So I kept Googling and Googling and Googling, and eventually I landed on a word at the time I couldn't even pronounce, but it was ayahuasca.
Mm.
I'm like, okay, ayahuasca, I got to find ayahuasca. And it set off a chain of events that were, it was difficult for me to find. I think it can be difficult to find, especially back then. I mean, that's been 7 years. It's gotten a lot more prevalent now. But essentially what ended up happening was I ended up finding a ceremony that was right up the corner, like right up the canyon here. And so I went to that very first ceremony, and the woman that was leading that ceremony, a shaman who had, South American connections, Mexico, things like that. We were about an hour into ceremony, and she came over and sat down with me, and she talked to me about my rage and my PTSD and worked on me shamanically. And then she says, okay, I need to go be with my other guests now, But before I go, I just need to tell you, like, Matt, you're a shaman. You just don't remember. It's my pleasure to inform you, you're a shaman. And my very first thought was like, I don't even remember there being a shaman package when I signed up. Like it was so far over my head. You know what I
Yeah, you're
mean?
like, I think I might have checked the wrong block
Yeah,
here.
like I know I signed up for 3 ceremonies plus the combo. I don't remember the shaman package. Like seriously, dude.
Very
Like,
technical.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I think you made a clerical error here.
Yeah.
Like that's how I saw it, right? Like there's another dude over there with a bald head. Perhaps it's him. You know, I was really like, what are you
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So none of it made sense to me, especially in the moment. What's interesting though is like after like everything in my world started turning upside down. Like I had like 6 months of contract work lined up. Every one of those contracts disappeared.
Mm.
Like just gone. Like they either lost the contract or they overbid it or the prime changed their mind or something, right? Like all this work went away. Just like, what is going on in my life? And what was else was weird was like I'd be in the grocery store and I'd see somebody, I'd be like, oh, that person's spirit animal is a bear. Oh. Or, oh, like that person's past life, like they used to be a king in Scotland. And like I'm telling my wife this, and she's just like, what is going on with you?
Yeah.
I couldn't turn it off. So
And this is post
post ceremony,
post ceremony.
post ceremony.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that woman had kind of like, she's kind of a mobile shaman. She didn't, so she was really hard to get a hold of. Um, and so I didn't have any answers from her. So I literally Googled shaman near me. Like, I don't know what else to do. Like, seriously?
Shaman eats.
Yeah.
Uber for shamans.
Yeah. Shaman near me, go, like, okay. But what was interesting is like it worked because I met a woman who was half Native American and half, Caucasian. And she'd been trained in Native American ways. And she was only 10 miles from where I grew up. So again, there's a lot of things that are happening in this location where I grew up and the way things were unfolding. I'm like, oh, okay, she's in the town next over. Like I got a lot of friends in that town. That feels right to me. So I'm going to go to her. And I signed up for a runes reading. And runes are like Nordic tarot. Okay. It's also their alphabet. There's a story about how Odin found the runes, prayed for the runes, right? So I go to her for a runes reading. I'm like, she's like, why are you here? I said, I'm here for a runes reading. She says, like, is there a reason? Is it money, relationship? I'm like, no, I didn't want to tell her, right? I'm just like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not telling you why I'm here. So she pulls my runes and she goes completely quiet. She closes all of her books, puts them back on the shelves, locks her hands like this and leans forward to me and just says, has anyone told you recently you're a shaman? Yeah, I was just like, are you kidding me, man? Like I came here.
Really?
Yeah, like right out of the gate. She's just like, like those were exact words. Has anybody told you recently you're a shaman? And I was like, son of a bitch, man. Okay, it's getting more and more strange. And I was trying to disprove it. I was just trying to get, some, but now I had even more questions. So now I was able to actually find another ayahuasca ceremony. And so I'm like, I'm going to go again. And this time I wanted clarification, right? And so I end up, they have a reporting in style where like you couldn't show up to the place like more than an hour before. And I had like an hour to kill. And this is in Kentucky, by the way.
Mm.
So I'm in Kentucky and I'm like, well, I'll just kill some time. So I found a park nearby, near a lake. And I go there and I'm thinking like, well, those hippie guys, man, they meditate. So maybe I'll try some meditation, And so I sit down in the grass beside the lake and I start breathing. I close my eyes. I have no idea how to meditate, but I'm just doing what I think is right, right? And I'm doing it for like maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute, and I left my body. And I'm like hovering over my body. I'm looking down at the top of my head and the grass and the lake. And in that very instant, like it was that fast, right? Like less than a second, what I realized was that was a very familiar activity for me. because the part I didn't tell you is that when I was a young boy, up until about the age of 10, I used to be able to leave my body. I used to be able to like talk to plants and animals, and I used to be able to like move energy. And I took that to my dad and said, "Hey dad, I've got this going on in me. Like all these things, I can see, I can talk to the plants and animals, I can see energy, I can leave my body." And my well-intentioned father said, "That's a cult. That's satanic. Don't ever do that again." And
You
me,
suppressed it.
yeah, and me being adopted and wanting that like security and wanting to be perfect and be the perfect child, and all those things, I suppressed it, and I suppressed it so hard that if you had asked me before that meditation if any of that had been in my life, I would have been like, "No, what are you talking about?" Like it was so suppressed that it wasn't until I came out of my body where I went, "Oh, oh, snap. Like I remember all this."
This used to be me.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
and it just as I said that, like I get all these chills because like, yeah, like it wasn't two other shamans telling me now it was coming from internal memory. Like, oh my God, I remember all this. I remember energy. I remember being able to talk to the plants and animals. I remember how to astral project and leave my body. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, type of moment.
Wow.
So then I go into the ayahuasca ceremony, and it was a 2-night ceremony. And night one, sometimes we refer to ayahuasca as a personage. Sometimes they call her grandmother or mother. She also comes as a female form or a jaguar or an anaconda. That night she came to me as a female. And night one, she trained me on astral projection. That was a little clue about what the medicine was about to do to me. So I ended up doing a bunch of astral projection on night one. And then night two, she actually told me who to go to and work on. And so I worked on 4 people, one of them being my wife, and through astral projection. Like I never left, like if, I was laying there on the mat, but my spirit had left and I was in these 4 different locations. And I came back and it was post ceremony. Ceremony was over. I was just sitting there reflecting on the journey and everything like that. And I hear these words, "You passed." And I'm like, "What?" And I at the time I was wearing this gray knit beanie, and I hear, "You passed." And I'm like, "What?" And I heard it a third time louder, "You passed." And this time I thought, "Where's my beanie?" Right? Because it was starting to click, and I reached in I had a whoopee, really, and like digging around in my whoopee and found my mesh hat, and I pulled it out, and or my knit hat, and it was a green beret. Like it appeared as a green beret for like a couple seconds, and then it was the hat again, and then it all made sense. Like in other words, that was like my selection.
Yeah.
Like she had brought me there for that experience, taught me some things, and said, "Okay, now go do them." Selection. And she's like, "Okay, you
You're
passed.
good.
I'm going to work with you."
Now it's time to
Yeah, now it's time to really train.
shaman.
Yeah, so then I came back to the woman that did the runes and said, "I've been all over your website. I've read every word. I don't see this offered anywhere, but what I'm feeling inside of me, what I'm here to ask you is, do you offer apprenticeships? I don't know what to do with this." And so I entered into a 2-year-long apprenticeship with her. We met every other week for 2 hours each time. She'd teach me something, and then she'd give me a homework assignment to go do it. I'd go do it, report back to her, come back, would discuss the homework, and then she'd teach me something else for 2 years. And we did that. Simultaneously, I started studying with a shaman in Colombia who was training me as well.
Were you making trips?
Yeah, going down to Colombia. And then on top of that, I met another man who taught me a different plant medicine. Like I don't serve ayahuasca because I don't feel like it's my culture. So I'll take people to ayahuasca ceremonies in Colombia, and I'll connect people. And we have somebody that serves ayahuasca in our church, but he's Guatemalan, so he has the lineage and the connection. But I don't serve it. So I met another man though that he taught me a medicine called acacia,
Mm.
and it's very similar to ayahuasca. It's the active ingredient in both is DMT, and so it's a DMT based drink like ayahuasca, and it's also found on 6 continents. So I'm culturally able to serve or acacia. So I met him and studied with him. He was my third, but the missing link for me was, like most shamanic traditions are in what we would consider like non-white culture, like South America, Asia, places like that, North America with Native Americans. But I identified, I mean, I am Scandinavian. I'm 45% Scandinavian and 45 German. So like 90% from that German, Denmark, Scandinavian area. And I'm like, I need to connect with my Scandinavian shamanic roots. So it was actually just over a year ago, about 15 months ago, I was in a DMT journey, and Source just said, it's time for you to pilgrimage. So like literally I came out of that journey, opened up my calendar, killed 90 days worth of appointments, canceled them all, and bought a one-way ticket to Stockholm, Sweden.
Wow.
And I left with nothing but a backpack, no plans, no connections. And by that point, I'd already been trained in the runes. So my whole way of earning my way through that was doing runes on the corners, like basically busking. And just like, cause what Source had told me in that ceremony was like, the reason you're
When you
having
say
so much,
source,
yeah,
the medicine.
well, I can. Well, the medicine was what brought it there, but when I say source, I think of like I'm polytheistic, right? So I mean, I believe in Father Sky and Mother Earth, masculine and feminine, positive and negative, not like positive, good or bad, but just like two
Polar
poles,
opposites.
yeah, on the terminals on a battery, right? So to me, source is like creative source energy, the source of all of the universe, source of creation of everything in the universe. So God is
Yeah.
essentially. So I was having this conversation with God in DMT, and being told by them that I needed to, the reason my work was not going well, or that I get flummoxed at points, is because I'm not in partnership with them. And said,
So you need to establish a path, a connection.
not only that, but I needed to do a trust fall
Mm.
where I said, okay, you want me to go on pilgrimage? I'm going to go. And I'm not taking anything except a sleeping bag and some clothes. Like I'm not Airbnb in this. I'm not racking up my credit card. Like, you want to prove to me that you exist, God? Fine. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And so
Let's
you
do this.
land in Stockholm,
Yeah.
and then are you like, I
So,
probably need to get a hotel?
well, actually, no. What was funny is, like, as soon as I'd made that commitment, another Green Beret buddy of mine who lives in Salt Lake, seventh group guy, SWIC guy, he reached out for coffee like right before I left. He's like, "Hey, you want to grab a cup of coffee?" I'm like, "Dude, I can't. Next week I'm leaving for Stockholm in a couple days." He's like, "What?" I told him the whole story, the pilgrimage, whatever. And he's like, "Well, we had an exchange student from Sweden when I was in high school. I'm still in touch with him. Do you want his information at least so you have something?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Sure." Okay. So I'm texting now with some dude in Stockholm that I've never met before. He's like, "Do you want to ride from the airport?" I'm like, "Okay."
You want a
Like,
place to stay?
yeah, yeah. And then that was the next question. "Do you want a place to stay?" I'm like, "For a couple of days, that'd be nice if you don't mind." So that happened. Then I went up to Uppsala, which is where the Vikings reportedly built their first temple and
Yeah.
committed their first sacrifices and things. And when I got back, he's like, "I got to go to my mom's down in southern Sweden and do some work. But here's the key to my apartment. Stay as long as you need." And so it was events like that. I was hitchhiking. I ended finally going from Sweden to Norway to back to Sweden, Denmark, England, and then Ireland. And most of it was through the kindness of strangers, busking, hitchhiking, all sorts of things.
Wow.
But the best part of it was, again, I went there to find a mentor who could teach me shamanism from the Scandinavian perspective, right? And I just knew if I went there with that intention, I would find somebody. So through this series of connections, I learned about this gentleman, and I called him up, and I saw that he was teaching 2 courses, like 2 weeks from when I learned about it, right? And they were full. They were already full. But I said, listen, I know those courses are full. I'm here. I'm here on a pilgrimage. Can I please at least have a phone call with you? So he set up a phone call, and I just told him the story, and I said, I think I need to be in those classes. And he says, okay, I'll make an exception. We'll put you in. And so I ended up going to those courses and studying with him for another 2 weeks. But the cherry on top is this man. So in shamanism, one of the people that sort of stands out is this name by a man by the name of Michael Harner, and we call he wrote a book called The Way of the Shaman, and he was an anthropologist, and he wrote this book I think like in the 50s or the 60s. Okay, well, this man that I'm talking about that I met in Sweden, he was college classmates of Michael Harner.
Wow.
And then there's another woman by the name of Sandra Ingerman, who is like one of the world's most renowned, well-known shamans. The two of them are friends.
Yeah.
And then I'd also recently been studying Buddhism and had been a real big fan of Thich Nhat Hanh and his books. And Thich Nhat Hanh was a Buddhist monk during the Vietnam War. Okay. And so I found out that this man that I studied with, Jonathan, had also been a disciple of and met Thich Nhat Hanh. So all these things fell into place, and I got to meet him, study with him, learn from him, and the connections and all that. But what's most interesting is that, you know, he at the time was 81, he's 82 now, but he had been teaching for 45 years, or practicing for 45 years, teaching for 40, because he had left the States and gone to Denmark, and that's when he discovered shamanism and his gifts, and had been teaching over there and founded the Scandinavian Center for Shamanic Studies. But why did he leave the States? Because he was an expat, because he was a Vietnam veteran.
Wow.
Yeah. So see, that's what Source does when you like let go and trust fall and allow flow. It's like I couldn't have designed a more well-connected, more well-versed, and on top of that, 2 combat veterans looking each other in the eye when we finally met, right? You know, that's what Source does for you.
Yeah.
And that's so those are the 4 mentors I've had in this journey as well, on top of that. So that's how I learned I was a shaman. That's how I wrestled with it. That's how I came to terms with it. And then that's how I studied to become I told Source when this began, I said, listen, if the whole world of shamans is like the whole world of the army, I want to be a Green Beret caliber shaman. Like I spent my career as a Green Beret at the highest levels. I want to do the same thing shamanically as well.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be mediocre shaman. Like I want to do the best I can.
Because we've never had this conversation before, right? So I probably said it out loud during our ceremony, and I don't remember most of it. There are periods of time where I do remember saying certain things to you, and you might have taken notes on it.
Yeah, I did.
But one of the things that I had was a vision, and I have Scandinavian blood too. That's what I'm half of, Korean and then Scandinavian. And in one of the visions that I had, I was in a different body in a different time, and we were in almost like medieval times.
Yeah.
And it was thousands of years ago. And we were it was almost like a cave. And I saw you, and you were doing the shaman thing.
Yeah.
But you were my shaman thousands of years ago. And in that moment, I realized that you had already done this ceremony with me at a different time and place in Scandinavia, and it clicked. And when I told people on my video on Preaching to the Choir, was like, you don't have to technically be told verbatim. You just know.
You just know.
And so I knew, and I saw you, and then I went, and it reawoke this memory. And then I kind of, in the environment around me, even my hands were different. I was a different physical person, but it was the same soul, the same
Yeah.
being.
Yeah.
And I was like, aha, you were my shaman. And we had never had the conversation before that. I had never even considered it a thing. And it just was, there was no connect point. I had not been staged. You talk about the being suggestive. There was no suggestive conversation. And it is a very clear, distinct point in the journey initially that I went through with you that I went, oh my God, this is the shaman. I know you, and I might have mumbled. I don't even remember what I mumbled, but I remember just recognizing and then going, dude, this is the reason. Like you were my shaman. You were doing this for me thousands of years ago, and here we are again coming full circle.
Yeah. So just to elaborate on the suggestive part, so that your audience knows, there's things that you wanted to talk about soon afterwards in terms of how we work together in the future. And I said, I won't have the conversation until 30 days.
We haven't had any of it.
Yeah. After you come out of neuroplasticity, because what unscrupulous shamans do is they use a person's vulnerability, whether in ceremony or after ceremony, to make suggestions and things like that.
Like David Koresh type stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, we never talked about it, but and I don't tell this to most people. I guess I'm kind of ruining that rule now, but I can say it in a general way. Like, I'll never tell anybody what I think will happen in their ceremony. I spend a great deal of time meditating and praying and listening to the signs before a ceremony, so that I have, like reading an op order. So you kind of know how it's going to go, hopefully, right? But I have a deep belief that when done right, when you do a ceremony right, when it's led by somebody who's been trained and of high intent and all that, that sorry, lost my train of thought. We're gonna have to edit that part out. But yeah, I have this deep belief that the people that come to me and sit in ceremony with me is something that the two of us agreed to before we were ever born.
Hmm.
It
was predestined.
Yeah. Like, well, prearranged, pre-planned. Like, I think of ceremony as too sacred and also too intimate in a way, right? Like it can be like, especially Johns Hopkins, they talk about it. Like, they did this end of life study. I think they did 10,000 people who were in end of life, and they gave them a hero's dose, and people would, I think it was something extraordinary, something like in the neighborhood of 80-90% of people said it was the most extraordinary experience of their life. And 75% of those said it was beyond marriage and the birth of their children and things like that.
Yeah.
So when I say intimate, it has that potentiality. So I don't do a lot to try to shape it before, but going into it, I do have this belief that whoever your shaman is, if done right, that was planned and arranged before you were ever born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just so the audience, and I'm fully transparent with this, I thought this shaman shit was all smoke and mirrors. Like, I didn't understand it. I've met shamans before. I've actually had a shaman on the podcast, all this stuff. But now having that experience, now all of a sudden I get it.
Me too.
Even the language, all the things are connected, right? It takes that experience to go, whether it's enlightenment or just the experience itself. It's like, oh, now I understand.
Yeah,
right?
when I went to my first ayahuasca ceremony, like I said, 10 miles from here, I was like, okay, shaman, whatever, Sorry. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So when I went to my first ayahuasca ceremony 10 miles from here, okay, so she wants to be called a shaman. I don't know what that means, but fine, like it didn't mean anything to me either,
Yeah.
right? Okay, well,
Shaman.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, fine, I'll play your little game.
Yeah.
Seriously, because again, and that was the other mistake that I made going to my ceremony, and we talked about this too, is ceremony is not a finish line, it's your start line.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where you go to
I
work.
said that yesterday.
Yeah.
I said that.
Right. And so I was going there with finish line in mind. Let me drink the tea. Let me solve my problems. Let me not go back to jail. Didn't buy in any of the shaman stuff too. And again, I came to this from a really rational, hardcore, conservative, uber masculine mindset.
Yeah.
In fact, I was even agnostic when I went to my first one, right?
You're not a hippie.
No.
Yeah.
No. Actually, I was, that's another funny story. But so I had all of that too. And then and I think that that's part of who I am and what my message is being able to talk to, men like you and I, men that were in the service, men that were operators, or even just, the men out there in the civilian, populace, and being able to translate the shamanic experience or the new age or what people want to call woohoo into man speak and also into ways that it can be understood. You know what I mean? Because I was so like, okay, so let's just say it. Like I was raised in the Mormon church, and like, frankly, it could easily be classified as a cult, if not just a high demand religion. And a lot of my shaping as a child was like, well, so-and-so said this 200 years ago, therefore it's the way it is. Right?
No questions.
Right. Like being indoctrinated and ingrained into having to swallow everything just because someone said it. Well, that doesn't sit right with me anymore. That's what got me into that mess. Right? So now I question everything. And so like when someone in the shamanic world, it's not like, okay, well, someone said, I wave this around 3 times while, saying these words and that's the way it is. Like, no, like if somebody tells me that, I automatically reject it. And I even tell people when I talk to them, like, hey, here's some food for thought, but I want you to start with skepticism and I want you to chew on it and think about it. And then, and then if it works, then great. If not, that's fine too.
Yeah. One part of my hero journey with you, I saw the heroic journey with you. I saw you getting shamaned up. And I'm like, okay, yeah, like I'm not like, this is stupid. I'm like, yeah, this is just part of the game.
Yeah.
But then it's almost like even the Nordic component of it, right? Because I'm a Christian. I believe in Christ and God and all this stuff. I was raised Christian. But I immediately identified, oh, this was my shaman thousands of years. That's something that was communicated to me. And then something else that was communicated to me, and I know I should be telling you this now, but and I don't expect a response, but it's through the process, what I realized was each style, for lack of a better term, whether it's Nordic, Jesus Christ, Buddhism, is a mechanism to the same origin.
True.
Right? And so it almost was like an enlightenment for me that because before we had been connected through that means of we were both Nordic, Scandinavian, whatever, that was appropriate for now.
Yeah.
That we would have that connection through that, despite my belief in Christ as the mechanism. Interestingly enough, the mechanism for me in the journey didn't matter.
Right.
Because it was like an installed conduit. It was just depending on the time and place in life and time and space,
yeah,
you were given that path. But that was the appropriate style, God, that was for me for that moment. And it made sense. And then I went, oh, depending on the place I was in the journey, that was going to be the mechanism in which I received it. So then even when you're beating on the drum, and there was part of me that was like, this is silly. But then when you did it, it portaled me into this mechanism. Like when you're beating the drum, I felt the vibrations, obviously, the frequency, the volume, the intensity. But then I had visions of my sons, sending my sons into combat. And then I had and then I was like an elder warrior chief that was responsible for the men, and it evoked that, like when
Yeah.
you're doing it, and then so then I was like, this is silly, and then I was like, oh, that's the reason this is happening.
Yeah.
Even like the beads, all the things, there was a specific component to it where I was like, the colors of it, the manifestation of it, it all made sense. And some of it I can't explain because there was no technical draft or script for me understanding it. I just knew
Right.
that, oh, this is the point, and it made sense. And I'm only saying that because if you're hearing this, you're probably going, this shit's crazy. It's the same thing that I said in my head many times with the first shaman I met, the whole thing. Now post it, I'm like, oh, even the language,
Mhm.
the things you say, now I get it. And you, I think you at one point you said, you said, welcome to the Matrix, but you also said like, welcome to the tribe or something like that, where it's
Yeah.
like, now you know, and you didn't have to explain anything. And I'm
Right.
like, oh, now I get it. And I talked to Jack Osborne, and he's been through it, and we have this now connection with these people, and all these people who have done it before. Now I know.
Yep.
Like JT from Black Rifle, Jared Taylor, who's a good friend of mine. He's been on this spiritual journey going, he thought maybe it was the end point, not realizing it was a start point. And so he has to go through it frequently. But even after his experience, I hadn't been through it. And I'm like, yeah, dude, you're crazy. You're losing it.
Yeah.
Now I get it.
It's one of the hardest things about the space is because we are just so grounded into this physical reality and this earth, right? And we've been trained, we've been indoctrinated, and even not to go too deep into the whole conspiracy thing, but there's powers that be that don't want you to understand that this earth life is really a matrix. My belief is that the earth is the most advanced school of all the schools in all the learning realms in the universe. And we come here to learn, to have these experiences, to work on our karma, to do better, to ascend higher each time that we incarnate. But it is hard. It is hard, and it's so hard because we lose touch with the non-physical reality, which is, I'll give you a perfect example because again, I talk to a lot of operators. I work almost exclusively with men, and and of the men I work with, I prefer to work with soldiers and operators, and so I'm used to speaking in terms that they understand. But here's one. Like most people listening to this might think that telepathy is bullshit, right? Well, how many times were you on an op where maybe your radio was out, batteries were dead, broken, busted, lost, didn't matter, and you're just like thinking, you're engaged, you're thinking, like, God, I wish that Tom was here. I wish it was Tom was here. Tom was here. And then next thing, Tom shows up at your six. He's like, bro, I could feel like, I didn't know where you were. I lost you. And then all of a sudden I knew where to go and you were there.
Yeah.
That's telepathy. Like, like things that you think are incomprehensible, nuts, silly, bullshit, all those things in reality have logical explanations, and we can begin to use them and understand them if we like kind of open our aperture a little bit to the concept of like, well, let me dig into it from a scientific standpoint and see. Like, I actually gave a talk about a year ago at an energy conference, and the name of the talk was How Modern Science is Validating Ancient Shamanic Practice. Because when, like we can start talking about like quantum entanglement, where like you can take two particles, entangle them, move them 1,000 miles away, you can stimulate A and B will react to it. Like there's things out there that scientists and like the further we go, the more valid these non-physical realities and the non-physical practices become. And that's where I'm rooted because of my religious upbringing and taught to accept everything through blind faith, I question it all. I maintain my skepticism because I want to understand it, not just, pretend to be, like a wizard and wander around, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I need a logical explanation for all of it.
So you closing out, you wrote a book,
I wrote a book.
and the book comes out in November.
So 2017 was the year I got out and was having trouble with transitioning and alcohol and all that. And Veterans Day, I planned to end it all. I was going to take my life, and so I drove up into the Uintas, just not far from here, and I stopped at a little bar in Camas and was drinking myself. Um, I was going to get drunk and take some sleeping pills, right? And in any case, a miracle happened, and I lived through it. So I'm releasing the book on Veterans Day.
Wow.
Yeah. So I
So
want to
you had
change
a
genders.
pre-planned. You
I was
attempted
gonna,
it.
yeah, I was gonna go do it. And what happened? The miracle was actually it was kind of, I don't know, maybe it sounds silly, but it wasn't. I mean, this is a tiny bar. It's called the Notch. It's got like maybe 8 tables in it. If you're familiar with that bar,
Mm.
small. And for whatever reason, there was a reggae band in that bar that night, like a 6-person band playing to a crowd of like 12. And I was I was enjoying the music, but what happened was at some point during their set, they said, "Hey, today's Veterans Day. We just really want to take a moment and thank our veterans. I don't know if there's any in the crowd, and but whether there are or not, whether you agree with the politics of the wars or not, like we all owe their our freedom to vets and things like that." Dude, I just broke down crying. Like I just knew that like that was, as silly as it sounds, like it was God's way of saying like even in this little tiny bar out of the
Middle of
way,
nowhere,
middle of nowhere,
a reggae
like
band.
a reggae band of all people, like thanking you for your service. And I was like, okay, all right. So I didn't take the pills. I just slept in my truck that night in the back seat in the parking lot, and then I went down to Moab and just spent some time in Zion's Park or excuse me, Arches National Park, and just tried to decompress and figure it out. But yeah, so yeah, the book comes out. The book is called From Green Beret to Shamanism: One Man's Journey to Hill. So part A is from birth down to my arrest, down to the abyss, and my wanting to kill myself. Part B, to shamanism, is that first ayahuasca ceremony through my pilgrimages and apprenticeships. And then part C, One Man's Journey to Hill, is taking all of the shamanic wisdom and all the things I've learned or remembered and doing the part where I explain it from a more rational, logical mindset about how you can use some of this because again, I really want the crowd to understand like ceremony is the reset button. Ceremony is where you go to work. Ceremony is a short-term solution. The real truth of the matter is it's in the 30 days of neuroplasticity where you form new habits, new traditions, all these things, and work towards your long-term mental health with new sustained practices. So that's part C of the book. And that, like I said, that comes out on November 11th on Veterans Day on Amazon. And then my website is awakegreenberet.com.
Is that up now?
No, but it will be within a week. But my social media, which has my link tree,
We'll link it all down below.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Awake Green Beret.
Yeah, we'll link it all down below. And also, if you're interested, I'm gonna do a special segment for Patreon talking about psilocybin specifically,
Yeah,
and that specific journey, and then elements of how you can get on that path if that's what you want to do. I'll link that down below. You guys can watch that special segment on my Patreon. You can be a member. It's a free membership. If you want to tier up, you can. But we'll link that down below as well. Also, all your stuff, all your social media stuff, points of contact, if you have that, we'll put that in the description down below.
Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Matt.
Appreciate you, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, and like you said, like yeah, it's I, I don't remember the year, month that we met. I know it was a little while ago, but yeah, I was really greatly anticipating, looking forward to that ceremony. I knew it was coming, but
So did I. I felt like it was going to come eventually.
yeah, it just had to come about in its own way. Like I tell, like in our practice in our church, we only believe in inviting. We don't, there's no pressure.
Forcing, yeah.
None of that. Um, and we believe that, when the universe ripens the fruit and the fruit is ready, then that's the time for ceremony, but not till then.
I
So
was ripe. I was maybe on the verge of going bad. All right, guys, appreciate you. Thanks, Matt.
thanks.